Welcome to AlexGs Aquarium, everybody. Today I want to give an update on the 480-gallon reef tank. It has been just a crazy week, and I want to talk about everything that happened in here. Before I get into it, though, I didn't put out a midweek video, and that's because I was the guest on Reefing with O's live stream. It was Thursday. He does a tech talk, and he wanted to have me on as a guest. It's the first time I've been invited to a live stream to be like a specific guest to just talk about this system. We talked for over 2 hours about it, and I just want to say thank you to Reefing with O for inviting me, and to all of the people that were viewing on there. I got some great questions and really had a lot of fun talking in detail about the system. A lot of people didn't quite understand just how much I've built with this system. So obviously, if you have any other questions on it, always feel free to ask them in the comments down below. Or if you'd like to have me on a live stream to talk about something specific to my system or DIY projects or just aquariums in general, please feel free to reach out to me in comments or shoot me an email with a request. Moving on to the 480-gallon reef tank. I went to that CMAS Aquarium show last week, and I had a ton of fun. I picked up 23 corals, 2 clams. I worked all day, a lot of it at the Cherry Corals booth, helping those guys out. I kind of wandered off when the show started, and I got one good lap around, which I'm kind of showing right now. You know, there were a ton of people at this show. This was literally just after the doors opened. People flooded in. I did manage to sit down and do one interview during the show. Fritz was there. I wanted to sit down and, just tell them that I'm really having a great experience with their salt. I took a few minutes, sat down with Fritz Aquatics, and they told me about a new product that they have coming out here shortly. I'll let everybody take a look at this short little interview. Hey, I'm sitting here with Brandon from Fritz Aquatics.
Hey guys.
And just talking about the salt. They got a new product that's coming out here, the red box. If you're looking for a Fritz salt that's got a little higher alkalinity in it,
yeah,
it's going to be the product for you.
Target's going to be 11 on the salt, range in between 10 and 12 on the alkalinity on that salt. So you guys that like the higher alkalinity, keep an eye out for that red box. It's going to start showing up in stores just any day now. Started shipping this week. So yeah, keep an eye out.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll work out for you.
And the Fritz has been working out great for my 1,600-gallon system. So
1,600? You didn't tell me it was 1,600 gallons. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks guys.
I hope you enjoyed that short little interview. I think it's kind of interesting that Fritz came out with a salt that has a higher alkalinity yet mix. I think for now, I'm going to stay with a standard Fritz mix. I'm happy with the alkalinity that it's mixing with now, but who knows? I think it's nice that they are coming up and developing new products to meet consumer demand. So if you want to check that product out, it should be on the market pretty soon, and it's in a red box rather than a blue. Getting back to a 480-gallon reef tank, as I said, I picked up 23 corals, 2 clams. I'll start with the clams. I got 2 Durasa clams, and these are ORA clams. I picked them up at Cherry Corals. I picked up a bunch of stuff for them, but they had some really nice looking clams, and I gotta say, they brought a whole bunch of clams with them and they nearly sold them out. I think a lot of it had to do with they just look so nice, and these clams are really nice and open right now, and they've been doing great. As far as other corals go, I picked up human mushroom that was really nice, an orange one. Picked up some Zoa frags, elegance frags, Cyphastria, some Stylophora, Bacillopora, I think, Cyphastria, a whole bunch of different encrusting monoporas. And I don't know the names for any of these. One of them I was told is like a Worldwide Corals Rainbow Monty. I'm not that big into names, but they're there. I'm sure someone will come over one day and say, that's this. And I'll go, okay. I'll probably get the names picked up a little bit more, though, as I get more and more into keeping these different corals. Also picked up a whole bunch of different acro frags. Overall, it was a great show. The corals have been doing good, but I did kind of have some bad stuff happen in the reef tank. It's been since remedied, I think, but unfortunately, I served 2 eviction notices this week in the 480-gallon reef tank. The red cigar wrasse and the rabbitfish that were in the reef tank have been evicted as of last night and are now residents of the 720-gallon tank. I just want to talk a little bit about why that happened. The red cigar wrasse is the very first fish I put in here. It does become a little bit more of an aggressive wrasse, and it is not considered reef safe. It did pick at some snails and any kind of hermit crabs that were in here, which wasn't a big deal. They kind of learned that coming out during the day is a poor idea, and they all hide, but they'd all be out during the nighttime doing their job, and that was okay. Now, the other habit this wrasse had was it liked to kind of nose things over and flip over small rocks, shells, pebbles, which I thought was a cool little behavior. It was really kind of interesting to see. That is until it started flipping over my brand new Weslephelias, my original Weslophilia I had. The big 5-inch Maxima clam behind me, it managed to roll over, and the Durasa clams it started rolling over. Now, this wrasse has done this before, and it would be like a one-day deal. This was not that. I literally had one day early this week where the Weslephelias and the clams were all moved 5 to 6 times in the day. I was trying to rearrange things. And unfortunately, I was really looking at this going, this is just irritating. All these new animals I put in the tank, and even some of the existing ones in there started to get pushed around, which is never good. The other thing that ended up happening, which is why the rabbitfish got an eviction notice, is I was just flipping the Weslephelias over. I sat down almost right here and was launching them, just observing how pretty they are, and the rabbitfish just came up to one and just started biting on it, and I was like, no, don't do that. And there is always a possibility that rabbitfish and foxface, and even tangs in some situations, although it's a little less likely, they could start to chew on corals when they're just not getting enough in the way of algae-based foods. And a little bit of that is probably on me. The hair algae is pretty much out of this tank now. There's just little remnants, and that rabbitfish is constantly picking at rocks. And I had started to step up the nori feeding a little bit, but I just don't think it was enough. Or it's possible this behavior was going on. I did kind of give it the benefit of the doubt. I let it go one more day. I have a security camera that watches my tank. I had it kind of zoomed in on the Weslephelias, and I looked at the tank 3 times throughout the day, and all 3 of those times the rabbitfish came up and bit on the corals, followed by the cigar wrasse going and flipping them all over before I came home. I then took some drastic measures. Now, I decided it was time to move these fish out. I knew it probably wouldn't work, but I gave it one good try to see if I could get them into a specimen cup and catch them out of the tank. Obviously, that didn't work. In large tanks like this, catching fish can be a little difficult, and I usually use egg crate or acrylic or a plexiglass dividers and a few little sticks and nets to kind of herd the fish into small parts of the tank. I got very close to catching the cigar wrasse, but not the rabbitfish. The next day I decided I would go to my local fish store, Reef Plus. He had a fish trap there for rent. I picked that up, put it in the tank, which I'll show everybody some footage of here, and just put food in there with a turkey baster. Now, I've never used one of these, and I'll be honest, I've rented fish traps when I worked at local fish stores, but I've never had to actually use one myself. It was kind of fun. I sat around for a good hour trying to catch these fish, and I was putting food in there, and the funniest thing about it is nearly every fish in the tank, including a new purple tang that had been added one day before, all went into the fish trap, but the rabbitfish and the red cigar wrasse would kind of stop short and go, nope, I'm not going in there. Never wanted to be part of it. I had alternative ideas, though, as to how to get these fish out. I unfortunately couldn't film it just due to lighting conditions and kind of seizing the opportunity. The red cigar wrasse buries itself in the sand every night. I stuck around till it was almost lights out, watched for the wrasse buried itself. Now, to catch the red cigar wrasse out, I used 2 nets, and I essentially put one laying down on the sand, just kind of opened up. The other I would kind of use as a scoop that was angled down, and I would kind of strip off about 1 inch of sand at a time. And the second time I did it, the cigar wrasse jumped out, started flopping around the net. I held it down to the sand, and I kind of clamshelled it into the other net so that the wrasse could not try to bury itself and pop up on the other side. Calmed down after a minute, kind of clutched it in the net, moved it into a 5-gallon bucket I had waiting with tank water, and then just netted it out and put it in the 720-gallon tank. The rest probably wasn't so happy about that, but it worked. And the rabbitfish I managed to get sleeping at night. Despite having a really nice aquascape back here, because the tank is painted black, and there's some really nice corners in here that are dark, and I think the fish feel really protected in, and that rabbitfish would hide up in the corner by the return line almost every night and sleep there. So I decided to take one net, kind of come in from underneath, another on the side in case the rabbitfish tried to run, which is exactly what happened. As I scooped up, the rabbitfish went sideways and into my net, so I just scooped it up, moved it over to the 720-gallon tank at about midnight. I had all the lights out in the whole basement. I only had a little red headlamp, which is why I couldn't film any of these things. I wish I could have got some footage actually catching the fish in the fish trap, but I think for the footage I showed everyone, it's pretty clear to say that if you have one of those fish traps, it's just a matter of time before fish go in there. And I just had a little piece of fishing line on a pull string. You pull it and a piece of glass will slide down and close in. I know it would have worked, and probably if I had had another day or two, I'm sure those fish would have gone in there. But I always look to seize the opportunities I can if I have to move fish. This is one of the reasons that I like having the big 720-gallon tank. If I did not, I wouldn't take some of the risks that I am with fish that are being placed in the reef tank. I know the checkerboard wrasse in here probably is going to have a potential to have the same MO as the cigar wrasse, but I'm going to take that one day at a time. As long as the corals aren't being disturbed, I'm going to go ahead and just leave them in there. Now the corals, when they were in there and I couldn't get the fish out, I did put them into Tupperware containers with some gutter guard and a couple rubber bands on there just to hold this in place. That way the wrasse couldn't pick this up because I filled it up with about 1 inch of sand and then put the coral inside, and I buried it down in the sand. You can see them next to the fish trap while I was trying to catch the fish in that. Overall though, everybody went into the big tank okay. The cigar wrasse and the rabbitfish are both getting along fine. I haven't noticed any kind of big bullying or fighting amongst the wrasses or between the foxface and the rabbitfish. So all is well there. I think that the reef tank though is looking beautiful. I'll leave everybody with a few shots of the reef tank as I close this video out. Of course, if you like today's content, go ahead, give me that thumbs up. Let me know that you like the video. And if you have comments or questions on the 480-gallon reef tank, any of the corals that I picked up, please go ahead, leave them down below. I'll probably have some specialized videos on the corals as I get more mature and stabilized in the tank and I can actually see some growth within them. As always, if you want to see more on the journey of the 1,600-gallon system between the reef tank, the fish tank, all the filtration, DIY projects, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching everybody, and I will see you on the next video.